Welcome to the Pet Loss Journals podcast. I am your host Louise. This podcast is all about the reality and impact pet loss has on our lives, and I will be discussing my personal journey through pet loss. So if you are struggling on your own pet loss journey, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to episode 24. I just wanted to say a big thank you to anyone who reached out after last week's episode. I've had a few people message to say thank you for sharing the story about our foster Puka, that amazing little pooch. And if I forgot to say in the last episode, if anybody was interested in seeing a picture of Puka, you can pop on over to my Instagram page. It's _light_after_loss, and I share some pictures of him there. He was just an absolute joy and a gift to our lives for those 6 weeks, and I loved sharing all about it in the longest episode. I loved it. I love speaking about him. We're receiving regular updates, and he's settling into his new home and his new family really, really well. So that's a huge comfort to both of us. But moving to this week's episode is back to a journal entry that I wanted to share and then subsequently talk about afterwards. This journal entry is from the 5th of June 2021, which I will start now. I'm struggling to write because I'm crying. I can't understand how painful this grief is. How can I help myself heal after the passing of my dogs? Could I talk more about them? Could I talk about them less? What have I tried? What has worked with my healing? What haven't I tried? Could I try reminders, affirmations when I feel waves of grief? Hiking helps with my grief, but my promise to myself of doing one hike every weekend hasn't happened. It's the recurring feeling of doing a tough hike that helps to heal even some of the pain from the grief. I feel that the dogs are with me when I hike. I feel emotional at some stages of it. And when I hike alone, I feel such a sense of achievement, and I feel some of the strength that used to be inside me coming back. This is something that I've sidelined since I've been in a relationship, and it's part of my life that I want back. And if it means sacrificing some quality time for my mental health, then surely it's worth it. It's like I have this built up grief energy that I just need to release. I need to do this. I need to do this one hike every weekend. Just do it for you, Louise. My poor babies, I miss you both. It's unbearable. I wish I could see you both again. That was this week's journal entry. It's so clear for me going back, reading all of the journal entries, that the waves of grief is such a true statement, such a true sentence for so many people, where there's good weeks and then there's bad weeks, and it's like riding that wave. And I know it's mentioned a lot if you follow any of the grief pages, but it's literal. It's so true. It was so true for me, and I'm witnessing that here in this journal entry. I was asking myself a lot of questions because I was struggling to comprehend and understand why this is still so painful for me. My dogs died in October 2019, and this is June 2021. And I was still struggling. And I want people that are listening to know that if there has been a long period of time that has gone by since the death of your pet, and you're still feeling really, really intense waves of grief, please know that this is normal. I experienced this for a long time, and there is no set time limit to how long we grieve. But I was asking myself these questions within: what have I tried? What has worked? What haven't I tried? I was searching for ways of healing, ways to process this. I do kind of hear like an element of desperation to try and figure this out, and an element of I'm putting pressure on myself to try so hard to understand why this has been so painful for so long. But it's really nice to kind of hear myself say that hikes really, really helped me and helped me feel close to my dogs, nature, getting outdoors, walking up mountains. And I felt that they were with me. And at certain points of the hike, I would feel emotion and I would get emotional. And now I believe that was how I was processing some of that grief, some of that trauma related to the death of my dogs. And the fact that when you get into a relationship, you kind of get all consumed with it somewhat, and maybe things get sidelined, like I mentioned, that I kind of sidelined what I truly loved to do for a certain period of time, and that's just what happens in life. But I was acknowledging that something that was helping me through the grief was now being kind of sidelined, and I wasn't doing that very thing: hiking, getting outdoors, getting in nature, especially solo hiking. Now look, I know that especially in Ireland it can be quite dangerous to solo hike in certain weather conditions, and so I was limited to when I could hike, when I felt safe enough to do that on my own. There isn't often people available to join you on a hike. But that at the same time, I loved going off on my own because I could use that time to get in touch with what I was feeling without screens, without, phones, any of that stuff. Just being present with myself, present in nature, and then being able to be present with the energy of my dogs. That's how I felt. Is there something that you used to do that helped you with those waves of grief? Is there something that you used to do that now you have realised that I don't tend to do that as much anymore, or I've stopped doing that? Is that something that you could pick back up again that has been maybe sidelined? That might look different for everybody. So, have a little think and kind of see, is there something? Or is there something that you can start that you used to do years ago? Or is there something new that you would like to do? Is hiking something you haven't done? Whatever that may be. But I just find that nature in itself, in all of its forms, whether you're hiking, whether you're doing a sea swim, whether you're walking on a beach, whether you're walking in forests, if forests are your thing, which they're fabulous, and just like listening to what's inside of you and like listening to nature and just being still without the distraction of the screens and work and family and all of the things that are in our lives on a daily basis. I would really, really encourage people to do that, even if you're in bed and you can't get out of bed because the grief is so bad. Is there a way that you can even just go for a walk outside your house for like a short period of time? Is there somewhere, can you hop in your car and get to, a forest or a beach and just walk for 20 minutes and just really be present with yourself? It's not about distracting you from the grief, but it's about finding a way to release some of that unresolved grief that's stuck inside in your body. That's exactly what I was doing. And, you know, I mentioned I feel emotional at some stages of it, at some stages of the hike, which I couldn't explain. I was like, well, why am I getting upset now at this point in the hike? But intuitively, I felt that it was bringing something up that needed to be released, and I just accepted that, and I said, this is what I need right now, and I'm just going to let the tears flow, and that's okay. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm an advocate for crying. If I'm working with any clients on Zoom, and if any of them get emotional or start crying, which is so natural when we're speaking about pet loss, more often than not, a lot of people will feel shame and start to say, oh, I'm sorry, or they'll apologise for crying, and I'll stop them there and I'll say, no, please don't ever apologise for crying. Don't ever apologise for an emotion. Like, it's not something to be sorry about. It's something that I welcome. It's something you should be proud of, because you're listening to what your heart needs. You're listening to your body. You're listening to what needs to be released, that you may have suppressed and pushed down and not spoken about and felt like it was unimportant to everybody. But now you've been given the space and the non-judgmental listening ear to describe what it feels like to have gone through pet loss, losing your best friend, and that can cause emotion, because it's a release, because you're being offered that safe space to do that, which is incredibly important. And it's a sacred space for you to express yourself in a world, in a society where nobody understands, accepts pet loss grief. Nobody in society, except for people that are supportive in your circle. I love to unpack these journal entries. There is so much to open up, like Pandora's box. There's just so much. And I was trying to keep a promise to myself to maintain these hikes once a week. Once a week, every weekend is what I said in the journal entry. And it's a little bit unrealistic for me with my lifestyle and everything else. But I try to focus on getting out in nature, and it does not have to be a big mountain. So once a day I get out for a walk. It doesn't matter how long the walk is, just once a day I promise myself to get outside of the four walls, get outside of the house, and the benefits that I have gotten from that are incredible. For example, I mentioned before on some other episodes that I used to suffer very badly with vertigo attacks and migraines and so on. And it was absolutely debilitating. I could not get up from the bed. I was nauseous. My vision it's like the room was spinning. I couldn't walk in a straight line, basically walking like I was under the influence of alcohol, even though I wasn't. Light sensitivity, noise sensitivity, didn't have an appetite. It was just horrendous. I needed to be cared for, basically. I couldn't make it. I couldn't walk to the bathroom on my own. I needed assistance because I was so ill with these vertigo attacks. And really what I found was these attacks may last anywhere between 2 days and I think 5-6 days. I really, really missed my walks, my outdoor time, my time in nature that I had daily, that I had in my routine every day. That really, really affected my mental health okay, I was very, very sick and I had to take care of myself, but it was absolutely physically impossible for me to get outdoors and go for a walk in nature. But oh my God, when I recovered and I got better and I started to ease back into walking, just my mental health just boosted. I just felt incredible. It's so underrated, the benefits and the effects of getting outdoors has on our mental health. And that was a time that really struck out to me really, that was a huge benefit to me. I missed it. I craved it when I was sick. I was like, I just want to get outside in nature. I just want to hear the trees. I want to hear the birds and watch the robins fly around me. And I just wanted to be out there, and I couldn't get out there. I was bedridden and I was so sick. Thankfully, I haven't had a vertigo attack in probably a year, which is amazing. And I definitely feel that those vertigo attacks began when I experienced loss experiences in my life, multiple in a row. They began in 2019, maybe 3 months before my dogs passed away, but I had experienced loss before that. I was under tremendous anxiety and stress when the first one happened, and then they just continued for a couple of years. And it wasn't until I really started to process my grief is when I noticed that they really started to decrease in frequency, and I was keeping a log of them through a migraine app and everything. So I was keeping a note of potential triggers and what happens, and a lot of it stemmed to stress and grief related experiences in my life. So that is an example, a really good example of how grief can manifest in the body through an illness or through an accident or anything like that. And that might have brought up something for you listening. It may have. You might be able to connect the dots onto a timeline of a loss experience that you've had, connect those dots to feeling unwell or having an illness or so on. So the body and the mind are linked together way more than what people believe. The Body Keeps the Score, the book. I mean, I'm sure some of you have read that book. Such an interesting book, and opens a lot of people's eyes to the link between what we experience in life and what happens to us physically in the body. But yes, a lot of information that I fired at you there, but a lot to think about, and also take some time to think about getting out in nature, or to make a promise to yourself to start doing something that you know deep down helps you to heal, to help you to release that emotion. And that could be a form of exercise, that could be getting out in nature, that could be hiking, sea swimming, whatever that is, whatever is true for you, that helps you to release that emotion, be that on your own or be that with a group or whoever you're with, to try and encourage that, and to really just get in touch with being present with yourself. Again, I would love to mention that there are, I think, a couple of spots left on my next pet loss support group program. This is completely online through Zoom. It is starting on January 16th, which is Tuesday, 7 p.m. Irish time. These groups that I hold are so important for people who are feeling completely alone and lost in their life when it comes to the death of their pet. And people are inclusive. They're like the death of a cat, a dog, a rabbit, a horse, whatever that animal is. this is a group that can welcome you to help you through that really difficult time. Also, I've had people within the group that have also been anticipating the death of their pet. And this is extremely helpful for them because the grieving process has already started. For those of you who have a dog that is elderly, that has a terminal diagnosis or is nearing the end of its life, and you need support through that, this program is also for you. People are so welcoming in the groups. People can connect. What happens is that I explain to people that there are these commitments that we can make to each other each week in the group. It's a 6-week course. So these commitments are to try to remain non-judgmental, non-criticizing, create a safe, confidential space for each other. Everything that we speak about in the group stays in the group online, and that is super, super confidential. These groups are incredible. I just can't speak enough about them, but I have some more information about these groups over on my Instagram page. There is a link over there to sign up. There'll also be a link in the show notes. If you feel that you have gotten benefit from these podcast episodes, but feel like you need that extra bit of specialised support within a group, then this is a program for you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this week's episode. Remember, your pet loss grief is real, and it is so valid. Please be gentle on yourself. Until next time, take care.